Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Technology Officer and SVP Expedia, Tony Donohoe, in discussion with Skift Executive Editor, Founding Editor, Dennis Schall.
Hey everybody. Tony, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
I have two public service announcements first. There was a software update, ironically, of our app. So if you want to ask questions through Slido, through the app, you need to log out, go to Settings, and log out at the bottom of the app. Log back in. Use your email, and the password is tech18, all caps. You could also ask questions through slido.com. Also, I see we got some people standing in the back. If you have a seat next to you and you could squeeze into the middle so they don't have to crawl over you, that would be great.
That damn software gets you every time, right?
You know about that.
I do.
That's why we're here.
I do know.
So there's a lot going on at Expedia, a lot of changes going on. And late Friday afternoon, Tony, I heard you have some personal career changes as well. So what's up with that?
It's fantastic timing when you have to go to a forum the next week. After 7 years, I'm leaving Expedia.
So he's really going to give us the dirt today.
Yeah, so I can give you all the
He's got nothing to lose.
I don't know how to put it. Expedia is a phenomenal company, and I would not leave unless I thought I was going to an opportunity where I could make a difference. And I feel like I have found a company where I can make that difference. But I would also say that the best days are ahead of Expedia. I'm really going to miss everyone there. It's
and you aren't free to say the company right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But we'll be finding out soon.
Pretty soon, yeah.
So just CTO of Worldwide Engineering for Expedia, is that all the brands, or what does that take up?
It's we power the majority of the brands, and it's a subset of the brands. So there are some engineering orgs that are completely autonomous, like Hotels.com is probably the best example. But
why is that? Why is Hotels.com not on the same platform, et cetera?
Well, we have the same supply layer, so some of that. On the front end, it allows them the ability to make quick decisions and move faster on their test and learn backlog, which was really always the culture of the company. So that's primarily why we did that. And of course, the company has a long history of acquiring companies as well. So that's usually the reason.
Okay. So you're in the midst of a multi-year cloud migration, and we were talking about it beforehand, and you told me it's a seismic shift. So what's so seismic about it?
Well, first of all, seismic is a poor word choice in the Bay Area, so appreciate that. It is actually a very big and material change in the industry. It's one of these trends that comes along every 10, 20 years. People should take it very seriously. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the velocity of your engineering org will go way through the roof when you can use a cloud provider. Historically, you would have your own data center, and if you wanted to do something new and you put together a business case for that, you're typically doing 6-month lead times to buy thousands of servers, assuming the best case scenario for that project. So that tends to inhibit velocity. Now you just pay on demand for what you use, which that is game changing. Also, you can deploy your applications anywhere around the world with a tap of a button, which you can't do in a legacy data center. You get the same fast speeds everywhere. It's more resilient, it's more secure. And what they're essentially doing is consolidating some of the core and harder to find skill sets, such as networking, security, into these cloud providers. So typically you may not have to know as much about it, but you get it quickly. And so essentially it allows you to move very fast, and then you can scale up and scale down like you could never do before. Probably why that's important for this audience is, but what we're doing is because we're able to build a platform that can basically scale to some degree infinitely, very, very quickly, and because we have an Expedia partner network, we can put more traffic on our sites very easily, which we couldn't have done before.
So over the years, I've seen Expedia go through a number of technology changes. Around 2010-ish, you were putting all your brands on a common technology platform. in 2016 after you bought, and with that migration, there were a number of years that Booking.com was kicking your guys' butt quarter after quarter as you were bogged down in that technology migration. Then the Orbitz migration didn't go so smoothly. So what gives you confidence that this current migration is on track?
These are very good questions.
Thank you.
Well, I have a high degree of confidence because basically with the level of investment in our engineering org, and it's a very global org, so we can literally work 24/7, and we do because we have engineering teams everywhere. We put in place a microservice platform years ago, which means it's very dynamic, it's very easy to release, it's very easy to upgrade. But in parallel, we were upgrading networks, hardware, infrastructure that was not at the same pace. So we've basically taken care of that, and we've reached a tipping point with our current platform in AWS. And as an example I can give you here, a couple of months ago, over a weekend, we found a part of our old network that was in trouble, and we didn't know how to fix it. And so we knew that if the servers were, if they went down, they weren't going to come back up. So that in an old world, that could be a multi-day outage. In the new world, we just moved all the traffic over the weekend into AWS, and I remember literally being at home watching my screen as the traffic was going up to 100%, moved all the traffic, took all the servers, they went and rebuilt a portion of the network, and we moved the traffic back. You just didn't have that capability years ago.
Right. So in addition to this flexibility that you're talking about, what else does it have practical applications in the kinds of things that you can do, the kinds of services you could roll out?
Yeah.
Or is it just a matter of scaling up easier or cost cutting?
It's a good, well, it is a very good investment. If you're just worried about the dollars, it is you can return that money you're not spending back into your company or building a better travel ecosystem, that's for sure. But that's maybe the least interesting part about it. I'll give you an example. If you go to AWS reInvent in Las Vegas, there's 40,000 engineers there. So you have this ecosystem that is way above just the hardware. It is also the tools that they're developing, and all providers are leveraging. So really, the thing to take away from this is that to some degree, it's easier than ever to go fast and build and do. But in another way, it's harder because you have to have the expertise that goes way up and down the stack. And that is going to be, if you're going to build a team to do this, you're competing against the other teams that maybe are larger or can provide 100 different projects that those engineers can work on. So you have to have the whole package as an engineering org to attract the talent, retain the talent, build what is needed for everyone, and understand an entire ecosystem where in prior years, you didn't have to do that. You would hand off to someone and they would know. Now engineers have far more leverage to do everything end to end. And those engineers are still not easy to hire.
And does it change the nature of the type of engineers you need and the ways you recruit them?
Not necessarily in just the core work you would do. Where that really changes is when we enter the world of data science. And really, if you think about a piece of code and how it's normally constructed, an engineer will sit with someone, read the requirements, and they'll more or less code out every last combination of what needs to happen. With data science, you can literally picture replacing the code with asking a question. And the question is based on the underlying data. And so now you're either retooling your engineers or hiring a different set of people to go do that. And that is a shift that's happening in the entire industry.
So in terms of data science and your efforts in search engine marketing, it's no longer a guy named Ralph in Bellevue who's looking at the kayak auction and say, hey, it looks good today. Prices are cheap. So what's happening in terms of how your search engine marketing is evolving in terms of your data science acumen?
So that is probably one of the best examples of data science at work. And literally in prior years, organizations throughout the world are literally sitting in a room, manually bidding, watching it, and kind of going, yeah, I think we're good today. But you don't really know. So really what we're doing is taking data science and automation, and we can look at all the demand signals, the supply signals, the keywords from companies like Google or Meta, any player you want. You can bring all that together you essentially can you hope you're doing the best job possible to optimize the bid, and you can do it at scale.
Right.
And that has changed over the years at Expedia.
Speaking of other players, I mean, Booking.com has long been known as best in class in search engine marketing. So do you feel like you've closed the gap? I've always been curious about that. How could they keep this advantage for so long?
Probably because they built their brand based in Europe on that premise that they spotted that opportunity, and the reason their company got big was because they had to go do that. So they had an incentive to figure that out.
Right.
Obviously, we were based in the U.S. Maybe didn't feel the need to do it as quickly as them, and we have caught up.
And that also has a lot to do, and this I guess isn't your purview, but a lot to do with the supply that they might have versus what you have. I know Mark is intent on building up local supply around the world. So
it's certainly a component, because if you take a whole ecosystem, you can have all the data science engineers in the world. Supply is a component and demand is a component. It's a marketplace. You're matching both, and the data science in the middle is optimizing those transactions. So certainly when you have a greater amount of supply, you can bid on keywords that you couldn't necessarily bid on.
Right.
But you can combine those keywords as well. And so there's a vast variety of keywords that are relevant to a sort of a route, so to speak. So there's quite a lot to optimize.
Right.
All companies are just at the beginning of that.
It's still the beginning of the beginning.
Basically, yes.
Let's talk about what you're doing in voice-based search. So you've had an Alexa skill for a couple of years now. How's it going, and what have you learned from it?
Great question. We certainly love our voice-based technology. Without a doubt, voice is the future. There's just no question in our minds. But like all emerging trends and technologies, it may come slowly and then all of a sudden. So it may take a few more years before the user experience in your home really reaches the point where it's just so natural. And let me give you two examples. So if you look at the announcement recently by Alice, where they want to put an Alexa in people's hotel rooms, the reason that works so naturally at the
And Alice, is it an Expedia company now officially?
Yes,
or?
I believe so.
Okay.
Someone will have to fact check me on that. But you walk into your hotel room, it's very natural to do the basic command: turn on the lights, close the curtains, order room service. It's a question with typically one very easy to guess answer. So those interactions work really quickly, and it's great. It's actually fantastic for people with disabilities, or if it's not your first language. It's just natural. If you can speak, you can have that interaction. Where it gets more difficult when you're in your home or doing more complex queries is the fact that you don't have a visual interface in front of you. And we have to rely on our memories. So it's when we respond and say, which one of the 5,000 hotels would you like to go to? Without a screen, you're limited to what you can remember.
And you've got to pare it down to 2 or 3, right?
And you've got to pare it down to 2 or 3. This is where data science comes in, because it's the confluence of the voice UI and data science giving you the one true answer. And until you can give the one true answer, a pure voice search-based query is going to be difficult to attain. You can come close. It's going to maybe require you to have a hybrid type interface for a while, or allow you to continue that search later on a mobile device or on your TV screen or your computer. So it really reminds me of the early days, well, let's call it early 2000s, where we were building new websites for companies who never had one. It's just going to be highly innovative, tons of change. It's going to be brittle for a while, but what you'll get at the end is a whole new way of connecting to the internet.
And what kind of take-up are you seeing from consumers? Is it what you expected, or not as much, or what would you say?
What we saw at the start, sometimes when we'd release, there'd be a little bit of friction, just working out the mechanics with vendor companies, even just doing our login. So we got through some of the basic hiccups you'd expect. We see quite a high level of engagement, but what we're not getting to yet is the point where you're booking. And I think that will come when we just have more experience and up our release velocity.
Let's talk about what you're doing in terms of personalization. We just put out a magazine for this event here, and it's called the Personalization Dilemma in Travel. Does Expedia have a personalization dilemma? Are your customers clamoring for personalization?
Actually, I think in travel, it's the area in life that people, well, not the only area, but there is a great pent-up demand. I will tell you personally, I don't know how many vacations I have not taken because I give up the planning aspect of it. Where should I go? Let me read 5,000 reviews, and is that really the best place? And what am I missing out on?
You call a travel agent, or what do you do?
I call my wife, and she does an amazing job of planning our vacations, and she loves to research. That's what she loves to do. So I think for personalization in travel, we haven't even begun. I mean, there's basic personalization on a hotel sort or a flight sort. You can make certain things very easy. And they're the basics, but I think.
And how are you implementing that now? How far is that? I stayed at the Super 8 last night, not really, but am I getting different results than you?
Sort
at
can
the
be,
Mandarin Oriental.
Yeah, the sort can be personalized, and it's usually a variety of signals, and it's very generic, those algorithms. So we may see that you decide to always stay in 4 stars, so we can easily build software that pops that up for you first. So, the real element of personalization, actually, where I see it is in our internal hackathons. We see our own employees, when we let them just go loose with new ideas, all they build is new personalization applications. Well, 2 examples. We had a bunch of young engineers working in Seattle, but they have friends all over the world. So in 48 hours, they built an application where you could meet in the middle. So friends from all over, they put in their starting destination, and the algorithm would pick a central location they would all fly into. That, to me, is personalization because I want to go somewhere, and I'm helping you do it. Second example was for our activities product. The idea was we would plan the entire day for you. We know you're in a hotel. We know the activities. We know you have 6 hours in the day to do it. We would route you via public transport to free and paid activities, build the entire day for you and say, we suggest you do this. If I had that product, I would use it all the time.
And you know whether the traveler is a business traveler who probably wouldn't want to tour an activity necessarily.
That's actually a great segue because, yes, you can infer that someone is a business traveler versus very easily. I mean, sometimes it's how many people are traveling with you. Clearly, that now is not a business trip in general. So you would have to infer it versus you can ask explicitly as well, and then obviously the traveler journey is very different for those 2 use cases.
Right. What companies other than Expedia and, say, Amazon, which might be a natural choice, do you admire in terms of what they're doing in terms of personalization?
Yeah, I think my best example is Spotify. I mean, I love music anyway, but I use Spotify every day. Yeah, they're constantly improving the tool. The playlists are always great. It's not always the music I like, so they're clearly improving my life because they're giving me access to new music that I probably wouldn't find, and they highlight key artists as well. Mm-hmm. So that's a product I know and love.
Do any of these personalization efforts or what you're doing with AI, you mentioned tours and activities, do they have any do they have any practicality to things like alternative accommodations or ancillary services in terms of products?
Again, I think it still comes back to, can we predict what customers want to do? And once we can predict their next action, we can probably give them a better answer. So for things like airlines, or maybe not ancillary services, but we could clearly turn around and figure out that your flight is delayed or missing at the airport. We can pick the next flight that you want. We could probably pop it into your app and say, slide to purchase. With accommodation, same thing. It could be, I know you're searching for A, but we really think B is a viable alternative, and let me give you that with an experience where you trust us. And I think with data, with the right model, you can give someone a very good answer. Mm-hmm. But again, it's still, it may not be the right answer as well. So I think in the next, call it 10 years, every software company that's building in machine learning and data science into their applications, there'll be a little bit of trial and error, and people have to understand that that's probably appropriate as.
Quickly, before we go into questions, what are all these data science activities that you're doing and stuff, big data, what do they mean for your partners? You know hotels aren't crazy about the amount of data sharing you do with them, but how does it help your partners?
Well, ultimately, we hope it is all about a partnership, right? I don't believe Expedia can exist as a company unless it has healthy relationship with its partners and its customers. So ultimately, you're trying together build a better marketplace and a better travel industry and environment that hopefully benefits everyone. Data is the lifeblood of that, and it is the lifeblood of probably any material online presence going forward, because data drives personalization, it drives AI, machine learning, and that's just not going away.
Right.
We just have to do it in a very thoughtful way that adheres to the laws of the land, and you exist within a society, and you should be doing the right thing always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to the videotape. Let's go to audience questions. You acquired HomeAway to compete with Airbnb. This question is from Paul B. What are the results and strategy to grow in this new market?
I'm probably not the best person to answer that question since I'm the tech guy. I will say that we collaborate with HomeAway to make sure that they can move faster and again, just build a better experience for our customers. Primarily, you want to get the world's inventory in front of people who want to buy it.
Okay. Do you see Google and Facebook as threats? Why or why not?
I don't see them as a threat. The fact is you exist in a world and people can go and use the sites they want to. If people go to Google for their first search or Facebook for their first search or even Expedia for their first search, that is their choice. Right. And you just have to work with them and develop a competing product or a superior product so that you're still a viable entity in years to come.
Right. Your CEO was at a conference last week and he said, all that free traffic that's going away from Google, everyone's dealing with this in the travel industry, it hurts.
Sure, you get traffic from a variety of sources. Some of it is technically SEO and free, and some of it is paid. And obviously, you're trying to develop a mix and a strategy that works for us. And actually, I think we're doing a pretty good job of managing that. I think if you build a compelling product over time, trust with your customers, they will come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is a hurdle that slows down innovation in the travel hospitality industry?
Probably as an industry, and this is just my personal observation, as an industry, in the same domain, where are you going to share and collaborate to build a better travel experience for the world's travelers? And when you decide to collaborate in good faith with the good rules of the road laid down, I think everyone can win, including every person on the planet who gets to experience it. I don't think does it ever really work when there's excessive friction between partners in the same industry. You have to find a way to come together and create the win-win.
So we've seen Chinese travelers, some would say as the leading edge in terms of mobile payments. How important are Chinese travelers for Expedia? And also, what have you learned from them?
Well, obviously, all of our customers are important to us, but of course, they come into the U.S. predominantly, so that is a different use case. So we're obviously very interested in all of those diverse use cases. I think what you learn from building a site that can work for all customers is the experience is slightly different on the site. So there's a lot of friction. In general, it's with localization. So people can really tell very quickly that this site was not built with them in mind, truly. Mm-hmm. And what it has done is made us a better engineering and product organization. When we see those subtle nuances, then we have to go fix them.
Right.
And so what we tell our teams is we actually have an expression, just no booking left behind internally, where every last detail counts. And when you have a diverse set of customers that are not US-based, you end up building a much better product.
Right. Your AWS journey, how difficult was the setup initially from an architecture perspective?
It was a little bit of an unknown at the start. Every quarter, the project was different because you're doing something that you understand, but you're still doing it for the very first time. So we had to really be very agile for the first year. But the main benefit was it energized our engineering org so much. And what we learned was just
Why is that?
because they could move faster. And literally, I will see engineers come in and say, you know what, we got a burst of traffic in the morning, I was able to scale up and add 500 servers, and then I scale back down, and I could keep the same performance metrics. So they're very excited by that, and basically they just have more free reign to just deliver the product end to end.
We have no more free reign because we're out of time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
That was great.
Okay.
Thanks.